Welcome back. So you wanted to know more about my journey. So let's dive into it.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same.
For me, it started
were
at
a
203 pounds. That's not exactly where it started. It actually started years ago. At the 203 mark, I was having trouble. I was having a lot of trouble. My body could not handle it. Now, understand that my body is 5'4". 203 pounds is a lot. I was on definitely in the obese category. So starting to have back problems, starting to have knee problems, starting to have muscle problems. And it wasn't helping that I was already on statins and I was on 2 blood pressure medications. And I guess COVID didn't help either. So after probably years of being relatively sedentary, that was getting worse the larger I got, right? So if I am 203 pounds, 5'4", and I'm sedentary, and I'm moving less and less because it's getting harder and harder to do the things that I need to do, I wound up being mildly agoraphobic, which meant that I was starting to never leave the house. COVID actually gave me permission to continue that desire to not go anywhere. We wound up moving in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic into this house, and it's a larger house where we could both work from home and be out of our way, each other's way. And my husband John works from home about half the time. So he has an office on the back side of the house, and I have an office on the front side of the house, and our bedroom's on the other side. So it gave me more permission to just stay at home. So that was making things worse. I went into this thinking that, okay, so our new house has a pool, I'll start swimming. Well, I did. It's not enough. I needed to do more than that. It gets very hot in Georgia, so in the summer I just didn't feel very comfortable walking, even in my own neighborhood. Just didn't want to see people. I didn't want people to see me, especially for the first time, like that. Out of breath, sweating just profusely, and just not an attractive look, especially for our first impression. So that put me in a position to where, was I going to do something or not? It turns out that the answer was not for quite some time, and I wound up at the beginning of this year having a kidney stone, which was aggravated because of the obesity. We went through that process and that was fixed, but and I passed the stone. But then I wound up back in the hospital only about a month and a half, 2 months later. And this was around March of this year, maybe a little bit later. So I wound up in the hospital. John called for an ambulance, and I was having some chest pressure, and I was having shortness of breath, and I was having all these signs and symptoms of a heart attack. My blood pressure was elevated. I was checking my blood pressure constantly, which may have made things worse because I was starting to panic. And John called 911. I wound up in the ER, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. My EKG came back fine. My blood work came back fine. It wasn't a heart attack. Only thing we could figure was it was just a severe panic attack. But still, it was a sign that things were starting to change in my body, that my body was not able to cope with the weight that it had and the stress that it was under. I had a very stressful job. Have a real estate brokerage, and my son decided to take over that business and let me focus on my health. So I'm very lucky that I had that option. It probably saved my life, because I went to the doctor immediately after I had this discussion with my son, who was very concerned about me, and said he would take over everything if I would just focus on getting better. Went to the doctor. At that point, wasn't even comfortable driving very far on my own. I wanted to have somebody with me. And he drove me to the doctor. I saw the doctor, and my doctor grabbed my belly, shook it, and said, "This has to go." Realizing all along that this had been the root of my problem was that I carry all of my weight, and mostly in my belly, and that was putting pressure on all of my systems, so it was time for it to go. He has been saying for years to move more and eat less. One way or another, that's always been his message. How much exercise are you getting? How have you changed your diet? And I'd already changed my diet at that point. By the second time I was in the hospital, I'd already lost 10 pounds. That wasn't enough. So I wound up at 193 in the doctor's office, still with these problems, and he told me that it had to go. Okay, fine. Well, how am I going to do that? I bought a treadmill. I planned to start using it that following week, but it just wasn't going to be enough. Nothing was going to be enough. I have tried the exercise. I've tried the diet. I've tried everything. The problem is that I don't know what to do, or I didn't know what to do at that time, and it wound up being very problematic for any type of eating that I was doing. I was questioning everything. Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? I don't know. I feel like labelings on food make it very difficult to understand what you're eating. So I had to learn how to read labels really fast. So after he grabbed my belly and told me it had to go, I was like, that's great, but what am I going to do about it? I can't just exercise more. I can't eat less. Turns out my metabolism was slowing down, so I could eat less, but it wasn't going to do me any good. I needed help. And what I thought I meant by help was that I needed to start seeing a nutritionist, and I needed a referral. A referral specifically for a nutritionist that specialized in obesity. I wasn't even quite comfortable calling myself obese at that point. And I don't think that I had recognized how big I had gotten. And I'll show a picture for you so you can see, what I looked like at that point. And it may not look that big to you. If you have more weight to lose and it's not a life or death situation like mine was, this might not seem like I was that big. But for my body size and my body type, I could not handle it. So I told him, I said, I've got to do something and I need some help. And so I was ready to ask for a referral for a primary doctor to replace him that specialized in obesity at that point. I'm ready to accept the fact that I'm obese. I'm ready to accept the fact that I need to make changes. I just need more help for knowing what to do. And so he stormed out of the exam room, and I was sure that he had quit on me. He's not the type of doctor that really wants to go outside of the norms for any type of weight loss. Weight loss should be secondary to him, I suppose. And it should be handled in addition to everything else. So, but I felt like my medication was working against me. 2 blood pressure medicines and a heavy cholesterol medication was on a statin was going to work against me. So I needed help. I needed more professional help that dealt with that. So he stormed out of the room, and when he came back, he was holding a box of Mounjaro, which is a weight loss medication from Eli Lilly that is FDA approved for type 2 diabetes to lower the A1C. He had taken my A1C test because I told him I needed to go ahead and be tested for diabetes. Clearly, I need to know everything that's wrong with me so that I can start dealing with that. Just by the way, in the past, he had said, don't go looking for problems. So we never tested any of these things before. But I'm 53 years old. I don't have the time to play games. And my mother had a heart attack at the age that I am now. And I have a twin brother that had heart problems in his 30s. So I can't play games with my health like that. So when he came back with a box of Mounjaro, he handed those to me, and I was shocked. I was completely shocked that this doctor, who is seemingly adverse to any type of medication for the weight loss part of it, or the obesity, was starting to come around to the idea that it was sink or swim for me. And he gave that to me, and it was a 2.5 milligram loading dose that he had in his office in the refrigerator. And he said that he wanted me to go home, read everything I could about it because it was brand new, and that I should be aware of all of the potential risks and make sure that I wanted to do it. And I spent about 3 or 4 days after I got home researching Eli Lilly's website for Mounjaro, and decided that I didn't see any massive risks for me personally. And the only thing that I was concerned about was any type of potential kidney failure. Now, I'd lived through if you're old enough, you remember Fen. And my stepfather, the only father that I really ever knew, is he was on Fen, and it contributed to his death. And so I was worried about taking the wrong thing. But in all honesty, what did I have to lose at this point? I was already starting to decline in health. Even if those risks were present, I may have still considered this drug, or any other drug for that matter, that had the potential for helping me at this point. Now, when he tested my A1C, it came right up to the line of prediabetes without actually diagnosing me with prediabetes. This particular drug can be prescribed off-label for anyone over the BMI over 30, or 27 on the BMI chart with comorbidities like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all these things that I have. So I double qualified for it at that case, and so that's why he decided to go ahead, and it was worth a try. I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical. I've tried a lot of different things over the years. I've tried a lot of the food plans, and nothing works long term. You can't stay on the food forever from some of these food programs. So once I came off of them, I always gained the weight back, and usually gained more. So I was skeptical of this. I'll be honest, I'm skeptical about the entire medical life when it comes to pharmaceuticals, and what we should and shouldn't be putting in our body. I agree that we should be able to handle these things on our own, but the environment we live in creates such a toxic life for Americans that we kind of need a little extra help until we can figure out how to work around the food that is presented to us most of the time. We live in a fast food society. We live in a high-fat society. It's very difficult, and it's taken a lot to learn how to work around all that. And I'll get to that in just a minute when it comes to diet and meal plan and what I've done. So I had to do a whole lot of soul searching and trying to figure out like why this happened to me, because I felt strongly that if I didn't figure out why I got here, I couldn't really survive getting past it. And it would happen again and again and again and again. I need to solve the problem. So I started doing a whole lot of soul searching. And one of the things about Mounjaro for me was that it created quite a few weeks of emotional unloading. Now, I'm not a mirror person. And when I got larger, I stopped seeing myself, which was comforting. A lot of people with eating disorders like I have, diagnosed or undiagnosed, have gotten heavy for a reason. And I think that I wanted to stop seeing myself at some point. So I had to spend some time in the mirror, and literally in front of the mirror, and decide what caused this and where to go from that. I had to figure out the moments that were traumatic that brought me to this point, and I had to face them. And I got very emotional about them and decided that it was time to fix this problem. So, and if I couldn't fix it, I at least had to face it. So, as I started losing weight, and I only lost 5 pounds in the first month, and I lost 5 pounds in the second month on Mounjaro. The loading dose, the first 4 injections with Mounjaro are the loading dose, so you don't really expect to lose much. But the second month, I did expect to lose a little more, even though I think 5 pounds a month is very healthy to do. But I did start to see a difference in me in the mirror. And it's become a daily exercise to look in the mirror and actually see myself again. And I'll add to that real quickly that if you're a parent, like I am, you stop seeing yourself sometimes and you start focusing on your kids and everyone else is more important but you. But what good are you if you're not here and healthy? And so these are things that I say to myself in the mirror constantly now, because I'm important too. My kids are grown, they're out of the house, and they don't need me like they used to, and that's probably a good thing because now I can focus on me. I raised my kids great. Now I need to raise me and bring myself back up by 20 years to figure out like who I am. And so I've done that, and that was all part of the process, or I wouldn't be saying that right now. And after the I'm at the end of the third box, which is week 11. I'm about to take the 12th to finish off the third box on Monday. I have lost almost 30 pounds, and I've come from 203. Right now I'm at 174, and I am looking to be 170 by the end of next week. I don't know if that's quite possible, but that's kind of my goal, is to be 170 by the end of the third series of 4 shots. I'm on 7.5 if you're on Mounjaro, so that you understand where I am in the process, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to stay on 7.5 or go up to 10. But my journey has been long, and it has been as sedentary as my life has been. I have not wanted to address this until it was absolutely necessary, and I needed to get ahead of it, and I think that I did. I hope that I did. I hope that I was early enough to reverse some of the problems and some of the damage that I'm responsible for causing to myself. I can't blame this on my childhood. I had a fairly happy childhood, despite, the typical divorced household. And I lived with my grandparents and my mother and my twin brother. And then my mother remarried, and I have a stepsister. And I had a fairly happy life as a kid, so can't really revert back to that. I have to revert back to me and the things that happened since then. So you won't hear me say a whole lot about blaming my childhood for much. I don't. I think that I've been an adult longer in this world than I was a child, and that makes me more responsible than anyone else for anything that's ever happened to me. And I take full responsibility for that. So at this point, I'm starting to see a good future for me. My clock. I love that clock, but it interrupts all the time. Almost done. It's 12 noon. So, about responsibility, I take full responsibility for everything that ever happened to me, and I have been an adult longer than I was a child at this point. So there's not a whole lot of blame I can put on my childhood. So you won't hear me saying a lot about that. I have a much bigger responsibility now to take care of me and to make sure that I'm here, even though my kids are grown. And hopefully someday I'll have grandchildren. That's not on the horizon at the moment, but I'm hoping it will be at some point. And I want to live the happy life that I earned in retirement. I worked very hard my entire life. I'm still working, and I fret to say semi-retirement because sometimes I think I'm working harder now than I ever was, and including these, which I enjoy very much, but they're still work. And I want to live the good life that I work so hard to achieve. And too many men in this country don't get that chance. They work hard their entire life, and just as they have an opportunity to enjoy that life and all the fruits of their labor, they're gone. And I don't want that to be me. And I don't want that for my kids either. I have 2 sons. I want them to have a good example for what they can do for their health and their life to live as long as possible also. I'm about change and about helping others with that change. And that's what drives me. I honestly think that as I started losing weight, even from the beginning, but especially as I started getting into this process, I started realizing that what drives me is helping other people do this too. And I think it's important to be there and to show up. And this is my way of showing up and paying it forward, I guess is the right term, and to really help other people to understand if what I went through, probably half of this country has gone through or is going through right now, or has repeatedly gone through it like I did. So I hope that my journey and Sam's journey and all of your journeys will merge and create a movement. And so that's where I want my journey to go. My journey will not end at 170 pounds, and it will not end at my second goal of 162. It will continue to go, and I will continue to have new goals to move this forward and to do whatever I need to do for everyone else to get this out there so people understand what obesity is, and that what toll it has taken on the American family and what toll it's taken on the American public. It is in the insurance company's best interest for us all to be healthy. Why are the insurance companies not focused on obesity care first? So my motto is cure obesity first. Everything else should come later. And I truly believe that obesity care needs to start happening in our 30s, not our 50s like me. I think that when we're 30 and we're starting to show signs of obesity, it needs to be addressed right then. We need to understand what that is and what we're doing to ourselves and the environment that we live in with drive-thrus everywhere for the worst food. And they are incentivized to give us worse and worse food because that's what we apparently want. We're in a problem cycle. And I truly believe that with your help, we can move the needle and we can change that for good if we so choose. There's no reason why we should have heart attacks in this country. There's no reason why we should have strokes in this country. Quite frankly, there's no reason why we should have diabetes except for in rare circumstances in this country. Obesity causes all these, and I truly believe that we can solve that problem with very simple solutions. We just need to stop incentivizing doctors and pharmaceutical companies. Stop incentivizing them to treat sick people. Start incentivizing them to create healthy people and maintain health. And that is my goal. And that is my journey. From this point forward, it is what I do. And it is why Sam and I came together to make this podcast and to put our voice out there like that, and to reach whomever it takes to get this done in my lifetime or yours. I hope that we can cure obesity.